fuck the EU.
No, exactly.
There was a phone call that was intercepted. It was a call between the Assistant Secretary of State for European Affairs, Victoria Nuland, and the U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt.
I think Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience. He's the guy, what he needs is Klitsch and Tony Book on the outside. I just think Klitsch going in, he's going to be at that level working for Yatsenyuk. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Okay. Good. Well, do you want us to try to set up a call with him as the next step?
Sullivan's come back to me, VFR, saying you need Biden, and I said probably tomorrow for an attaboy and to get the deets to stick. So okay. Biden's willing.
So you had this remarkable phone call where you have these two senior officials of the U.S. government apparently talking about a coup or how they were planning to restructure the government of Ukraine.
What happened?
Yanukovych was trapped. He had tried to break up the protests with force, and they got bigger. He had the Russians breathing down his neck, telling him to use more force or else they would take back their $15 billion. And he had Joe Biden in his office telling him that if he did shoot protesters, America would sanction the hell out of the country. So he tries to make a deal. If the opposition helps quell the protesters, he'll give two of the opposition leaders ministerial portfolios. The opposition is skeptical of this offer, so they take it to the American embassy and ask for advice. And the Americans tell them to take the deal, but with one condition.
I don't think Klitsch should go into the government. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's a good idea.
So what's going on here? Victoria Nuland, the Deputy Secretary of State, probably correctly thinks this offer is a trap. Nuland doesn't want Klitschko to go into the government because if both Yatsenyuk and Klitschko went into the government at the same time, that would leave on the street only Oleg Tyanibok, who is a Nazi. Leaving Tyanibok in the street would turn him into the sole face of the movement.
In terms of sort of the process moving ahead, we want to keep the moderate Democrats together. The problem is going to be Tony Book and his guys. And, I'm sure that's part of what Yanukovych is calculating on all of this.
Which would radicalize it and scare off the normies. Now, that would reduce the movement's mass appeal, but would also dangerously polarize the country even more. A risk Yanukovych was willing to take because he saw it as the only way to keep himself in power. Now, Yatsenyuk had experience dealing with Yanukovych as his foreign minister, so he was the most likely to survive any sort of bureaucratic warfare that Yanukovych would engage against him. Klitschko had zero political experience, so Nuland wanted Klitschko to swallow his pride and stay on the street.
I think Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience.
Yatsenyuk and Klitschko instead rejected Nuland's idea and just scrapped the deal altogether. So the violence continued. Now, of course, the reason we know this is because the phone call was recorded by the FSB and leaked. But the fact that the phone call was leaked tells us something else very important. The Kremlin was more afraid of Yanukovych making a deal with the opposition than it was of Yanukovych being overthrown. After all, why else try to scuttle a deal that would have kept Yanukovych in power, unless they were already convinced Yanukovych was going to backstab them? Now, this might be why the Kremlin wasn't just in contact with Yanukovych, but also directly in contact with Yanukovych's underlings. Either way, it was clear Yanukovych didn't control his security services.
When the protesters charged up the hill, the police opened fire with automatic rifles, and now we're seeing many protesters coming back badly injured.
His interior minister, the chief of all federal law enforcement, had ghosted him and was not answering his calls. All his lieutenants had disappeared with him. So the marooned police forces in the middle of the protest just had to surrender in exchange for safe passage out of the city. This left Yanukovych with no police force loyal to him left in the entire capital. So, naturally, Yanukovych makes a run for it. And we all know how Russia responded.
Russian President Vladimir Putin made his first visit since Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine.
After taking Crimea, Russia knew they had lit the fuse on a divided, unstable Ukraine. So all they had to do was wait for Ukraine to dissolve into a civil war so that they could move in and mop it up. So they waited. And waited. And waited. And when there weren't any uprisings, Glaziev tried to organize them. For 6 weeks, Glaziev paid protesters to attack government buildings and stir up riots. But the central government simply ignored them, and so did most of the locals. The civil war and breakup of Ukraine was just not going to happen on its own. This, perhaps, should have been a sign that color revolution theory was wrong, and you cannot, in fact, overthrow a government by giving a few $1,000s to NGOs. After all, Russia had followed all the steps it had accused America of following precisely. It paid protesters. It sent agent provocateurs. It sent mobs to take over government buildings. It engaged in street theater. It broadcasted fake news about how the Banderites were coming to kill everyone. And normal life just hummed along. Instead, Glaziev took it as a sign that the gay Anglo-Jewish Nazi CIA was working even harder behind the scenes to keep Ukraine stable. After all, he had that phone call.
I think Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience. He's the guy, what he needs is Cleach and Tony Book on the outside. He needs to be talking to them 4 times a week.
Look, she said Yats is the guy. And Yatsenyuk did get appointed prime minister for the interim government. I mean, what are the chances of that happening coincidentally? How often does the leader of the biggest opposition party gain power after the opposition party takes control of the government? Had to be the CIA.